One. All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the block party. It is Friday, January 15th. Big changes are afoot in the world, including in the world of food healers. So, Silas, how you doing there, brother? Great to see you. Marco, great to see you. Silas, please take it away.
Great to see you. Thank you all. I have good news. The good news is that the ISKCON temple is going to cook PCRM's universal meals for the Navajo Nation elders. So we have figured out that we're going to take it in trays of food, so large trays of food, and then the senior center there will package it in individual, because they have already a 3-compartment tray that they go and give to the seniors. And apparently it's all done. Yeah. So the seniors. Go ahead.
So the temple will do large trays, kind of like food catering size trays, and then at the senior center on Navajo Nation, they'll portion it out into small individual trays.
Right. Yeah. They portion it out and they go deliver it on a daily basis. So the senior center is not a place where the elders are living. It's a place that caters to elders. So the first delivery is going to happen on Thursday, the 21st of January. And
awesome.
I'm gonna drive it up there because
awesome.
Yeah, so I'll be able to report. I'll take some photographs and come report to the next food healers.
Wonderful, Silas.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wow, super cool. And roughly how many elders, how many seniors are they looking at?
This is there are 28 seniors 28 elders that this particular senior center serves. And because of COVID, the way it works is that the elders put out their ice box outside their home. And then Alfred goes and drops off the food once a day, enough for the day for them to eat. So,
wow.
So, the ISKCON temple is now figuring out what should be the menu for the week. And so we're going to keep doing that. And I've asked, if I look at the Universal Meals recipe list, there are about 20 recipes right now on the PCRM website. So I've asked Paige to, rustle up her network of chefs to come up with more. Let's just make more. Because it seems to be perfect for the Navajo Nation people, because they said that they cannot really eat spicy food. So the normal food that the temple cooks, probably won't work for them. So this is why it's good that they're going with the universal meals. So I'm going to report back to Dr. Neil Barnard of PCRM and thank him for making those recipes available. And he has also asked me to keep him appraised about the program anyway, so that because they have been talking to the Navajo Nation, but they said that so far they have been just talking, giving them, educational material and showing them how to cook and all that, but they never really supplied food. So they were very happy when we said we were going to supply food.
Wow.
Wow. That makes it the default, right? So how do you make a different default in the food system? Well, cook the food and go give it to them.
Exactly.
Yeah, no one will say no to that. They'll say, okay, I'll eat it. It's the easiest thing to do.
Totally.
Yeah.
Wow. So exciting.
So
Silas, go ahead, Marco.
Yeah, so these recipes are calculated to provide the proper nutrition?
Yeah. They have a whole rating system for how they add recipes to that list.
Because that's always my thing. I can pick lots of whole foods and think they're okay, but am I doing the right combinations?
Yeah. No, take a look at, they have a whole, actually they wrote a paper. I can forward it to you if I have your email. Yeah. And I mean, right now, the food that we eat in Western countries absolutely does not give you the nutrition you need. Absolutely does not.
Right.
97% of Americans don't get enough fiber in their diet. And 98% don't get enough potassium. I mean, it just goes on down the list. If you look, you say, what the heck are we doing? I mean, we're spending so much money on food, we're not even getting the nutrition we need. So yeah, so this one is designed for that, designed to make sure that you do get all the nutrition you need, and honestly, right? So honestly measuring the nutrition as opposed to pretending you need 35% of your calories from protein. When mother's milk, I think, has 2% or 1% or something like that. I mean, mother's milk from your mother is when you grow the fastest, right? You think so?
Yeah,
As a baby.
it's so crazy, what we're doing now that, everybody, the majority of people believe all the lies.
Exactly.
And when you want to tell the truth, people think you're crazy.
Right.
It's a very tricky world to navigate these days.
Yeah. I mean, but when I ask people, think of any other mammal that grows as slow as we do. And they all say, yeah, you're right. It takes us like 20 years to get to adult weight. All the others are just way out there, right? And so you look at their milk, their mother's milk, they have like 5%, 8% protein content. And ours is like, I think, less than 2% protein content. But then the USDA says you need 35% of your food with protein. So everybody's just hogging, meat, so they get sick because the pharma companies depend on you getting sick.
I wonder if that relates. I've noticed, like, in the last, well, since like the 90s, that it seems to me like young adults in their 20s are more like young adults in their teens in previous years as far as maturity level goes. And I wonder if that doesn't have something to do with the whole diet and pharmacological mess we're in.
Yeah, the kind of mess we have created, I'm just amazed that our body is taking this abuse. and we are still ticking as a species. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me check. I have to check what the percentage. I'll get back to you next week on what the exact percentage of protein content in mother's milk is. Because, I mean, you really won't ever need more protein than that, right? Because as a baby, you're doubling your weight every year, something like that.
Right.
Well, we have absolutely radical changes that are absolutely urgent right now. That's the clear message from everything we're talking about, no matter how we slice it: political, diet, financial, industrial, cultural, everything across the board. So, I'm very excited. I've got a couple updates myself. One on in terms of kind of looking and framing the whole thing, and another in terms of this conference that's just now starting to get planned. I'll touch on both of those. But first, I want to pause for a moment and just acknowledge what you're doing, Silas, with the Navajo Nation, taking so many of these things that we're talking about and putting them into action and building these partnerships to build a network and really model it the right way, even on a small scale, 38 elders, whatever, it's a start. And by doing it right and then measuring the results, and then we can say, hey, we don't have to stop at 38 elders, right? We can go from there. But first, let me check in with both of you guys. What do you guys feel, in your hearts about this concept of just feeding everyone as a basic human right? I know we've had some kind of intense conversations about that, and some people feel, oh, this might disrupt this or that or whatever. But I'd love to just kind of hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think that feeding everyone, I mean, having healthy immune boosting food freely available to everyone is the function of government. It has the function of our community. Why do we even get together as a community if we can't even make these basic things happen? You know? Water, yes, everybody should have clean water available to them. Everybody should have good food available to them freely. Okay, that's what our taxes are for. That's what we are all working collectively for. You know, if they can't even do that, if they say, well, you know, you have to pay for that, then why do we even elect you? Why do we have a government? Basic stuff is met, yeah.
Yeah. Now, at radish.org, one of our team members, Jamie Gilchrist, worked in government for his whole career, in law enforcement, and he's actually, and even in the DEA, he's a brilliant dude. That just happened to be where his career took him. But he says over and over, government, they're not here to solve anything. They're not here to think creatively. They're not here to create solutions. You know, they're that's just not their job. That not their role. And so, given that, where I'm coming from is, why do we have to wait for the government to do these vital roles, these vital solutions, if it's something that we can create in, let's just call it the compassionate sector, not private sector, for profit, not government, not necessarily nonprofit, because as we've seen with Cowspiracy and other documentaries that have dug into it, the nonprofit sector is not necessarily doing the right thing, and I think so much of it boils down to money, and greed, and fear of scarcity and all that. And so I think we have an opportunity to create a whole new model, where this provisioning of food, I agree with you, this is something that the government should be doing, but realistically, I don't, I mean, you know, their solution is to hand out food stamps. It's just print more money so that you can go invest it in the current private sector dysfunctional system, that's making us all sick. So I really love our approach, where we just, you know, go directly to the temples and go to the communities who need, and just organize it and just do it. Because I have faith, as I've said many times, I have tremendous faith that the communities that the people, the individuals, will donate. And based on donations, we can fund this whole thing. And it can even be essentially profitable, though the profits would all go to expanding the program until everyone's fed. And then if it becomes a profit center, remember how, like, for decades, the United States Postal Service, a government service, was actually profitable? It was like perhaps the only, or one of very few, you know, government operations that actually turned a profit. And originally, you know, before FedEx and UPS and before it got all hyper capitalized, it was just an efficient system that worked. It wasn't too expensive, and yet it turned a profit. I mean, that to me is like a great example of something that's providing a public good that happens to be profitable. Now, in our case, so let's say we build this out all over the world, kind of like, you know, the Postal Service spans all countries. And imagine that it's profitable. So what do we do with all that profit? Well, in addition to, of course, you know, fully implementing it down to the last village in Alaska and Somalia and the Sahara and everything else. Okay, is everyone eating plenty? Right. Okay, are they eating the right foods? Okay, yes. Okay, great. And it's still profitable. Then what do we do with the profits? I would say we invest those in the next fundamental human need, whatever that is, whether it's housing, shelter, whether it's healthcare, holistic healthcare, of course, etc. So anyway, just wanted to put those thoughts on the table.
Well, I think the big problem is what we're fighting in every segment of anything we want to do that's beneficial for people is money is blocking us the system we have set up. I mean, fast food,
Right.
$570 billion industry isn't going to want us giving away free food. You have to think about that. You know, there's going to be objections there.
Well, tough bananas, right? You have to tell them tough bananas.
But you know, that,
suck it up.
if you're going to look at somebody who's, and I see this, you know, this is a big thing with oil too, is they have decades of generations of family money tied up in oil infrastructure. They don't want to give that up. Not until every last bit of oil is out of the ground. Then they'll decide something else is better, but not until. You know, you can't just go and take people's generations of livelihoods away and not expect, you know, blowback.
Right. This is why we need to create a whole new currency system. The whole thing has to change. Okay, so it's not just the food. The food system is the lever. You know, it's the soft underbelly of the system now, and we are sort of pushing that and creating something new through that. And so it'll topple the old system. So they'll be looking for new solutions. I mean, this is the idea, right? Because in any system, you have these stable points and you have these points where it is easy to switch over. So stable points are, you know, I mean, as long as we all look up to Jeff Bezos and say, wow, I would love to be like Jeff Bezos, then that creates stability in the system because everybody's looking to be like Jeff Bezos, right? But if you say, you know, Jeff Bezos I cannot believe that he still hasn't figured this out. You know, he'll be so much happier if he just gives his money away. If he treats his money as blood money, I mean, in fact, any accumulated wealth is blood wealth, you know, it's just really blood money. So give it away because it's blood money. You took it from someone who stole it from someone else, right? That's really all it is. All our profits are coming off the backs of poor people.
Yeah, and you hit on the key thing there, Silas. It's like as much as people talk about hating the rich, secretly they wish they were the rich.
Right. Right.
You know, they even the people that won't admit it to themselves, they're thinking, you know, I would rather be that than this, you know. Right. So that's going to be super hard to get past. But I mean, yeah, we're making progress though.
Yeah. Fortunately, in India, it's sort of part of the ethos. The culture has that. The epics of India are all, you know, about rejecting that nonsense, right? It's all about that. Saying Jeff Bezos is actually I mean, he's not very smart when he hasn't figured this out. You know, that by giving it away, he'll be happier. He hasn't figured that out. He's not very smart. So that's sort of built into our culture there. So I'm sort of targeting people in India first, see if they will switch over. Because otherwise it's so funny, right? I mean, we have been conned by the rich people, and we have been conned by nature. Nature has conned us. Nature has been using us and making us pretend like we are the bosses, right? And now she's slapping the heck out of us, saying, hey, wake up, you know, enough of the con.
Wow. Yeah, you know, the more I think about it and just seeing how pervasive the current system is and how it just invades and penetrates every part of life and every part of society. And it's, you know, and things, let's face it, things are getting worse, you know, politically, economically, environmentally, climate change, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think it's fairly clear we need whole system transformation. And the big question is how. Now, this brings us to a really awesome meeting we had yesterday in the afternoon on the press conference. Do you know a woman named Ananda, Silas? Ananda, elderly gal. She's obviously older, not, pardon me?
Ananda Reeves.
Ananda Reeves. And So she was at the first press conference, and she's been coming to, the block party and whatnot. And so she just showed up yesterday and said, I'd love to talk about intentional communities. And so we scheduled a time, and she came and gave a great presentation, and it's recorded, and I'm going to upload it to my YouTube channel. But basically, from the very beginning of her life, she was born in an intentional community and has lived in something like, I don't know, 8 or 10 different intentional communities throughout her life, and has learned so much and is very self-reflective, right? So she's learned how she was being in situations that didn't work, and has had years and now decades to reflect on all this. And she has, not the faintest hint of an ego. I mean, she's just, she kind of reminds me of Melanie, just determined and no ego, and kind of like Jean-Francois. She doesn't accept payment. If you need her help, she'll drive out there with her teardrop camper, and she's helping intentional communities get going and all this. Now, she has a program called, I wrote it down, futurenowradio.org. Have you heard of Future Now Radio? Anyway, she interviews all kinds of people, lots of people. And what she told me is something I essentially already knew, but I'd kind of been resisting, is that we all need to come together. And she said that in all these intentional communities that she's worked on, the thing that brings people together are projects. As long as people are working together on something, everyone loves each other and works together in harmony and all that. When a project is complete and we're all kind of sitting on the spoils, that's when people start fighting and dividing and all that. And so I'm listening intently, and she had dropped a couple of clues. So I finally said, okay, so what is it? How are we going to unite everybody? What is that one project? And so what she's suggesting is, and she's working with a group called Moneyless Society. There's this Moneyless Society, which of course we've now identified. It's very, very clear. Money, at least in the way that we're handling it, is poisonous. It's toxic. It's addictive. And anyway, so I've been on this whole moneyless kick for quite a while, and with the Ahimsa coin and all that, we're seeing how to transform it. But what she's saying is, listen, what we need to do is create a planetary conference where we all come together, and that's the first project, is just creating the conference. And I believe that within that conference, as we organize it and all that, and by the way, the very first meeting for that conference is today, starting in 2 hours, 10 o'clock Pacific, noon Central. So I'm gonna lead a field trip to that conference, and then we've got another meeting an hour and a half later or so here. But I'll keep one foot in the block party, but lead that field trip. I don't know if you're available to join, either of you, Silas, Marco.
There's the opening session of the MLK event that I wanted to attend. I think that's, it's 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock our time.
Your time. Okay.
Yeah. 10 to 12 our time. Yeah.
Okay.
9 to 11 Pacific time. So it's going to clash.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, we can divide and conquer then. So you'll be at the MLK opening session, and please give them our love from the conversation. And but I'm really feeling this planetary conference. It's so clear we all need to come together and figure this out, right? So many different communities, including ours, have been working kind of like on individual solutions here, there, and everywhere, but we got to put it together, right?
Right. So actually, on Tuesday, I had 2 guests on my podcast. I had Jim Hicks and Ziv Gross. So Jim Hicks is talking about Great Big Northern. So it's like building a spaceship on planet Earth, a sustainable living arrangement on planet Earth. It's like so you go there as a veganot. You are not, you have to kind of graduate to go there. You have to become a veganot and then go there. And Plantica is a school for veganauts, right? So it's like a school for veganauts, basically creating a community within each city and saying, okay, who can go to the next? So as positions open up on this great big northern, people are going to be saying, okay, I want to be the next one. And then you have some sort of selection mechanism that sends you there. So the idea is to create a new colony on Earth, which is absolutely sustainable, which is guaranteed sustainable. It's based on the truth. It's based on measuring things exactly and knowing that you are within limits when you live like that. And it may have, hyperloops, so you don't need any cars, so who knows, right? So they're figuring out how should we build that colony on Earth that is valid for the next 7 generations, that we know is going to sustain us for the next 7 generations. And it's going to cool the Earth and not heat the Earth. So people there are going to be doing things like, regenerating forests in the neighborhood and stuff like that. Now, it could be that it starts in Jim Hicks is saying we should start somewhere in Montana and build it out, or where it's cheap to buy land and build it out, or it may start somewhere in India. Who knows? So maybe every place they start one like that. Every place we start. So we minimize our footprint, and simultaneously we maximize our utility of what we are doing with that. So that's what they were talking about on Tuesday. And I think they need to be in that conversation. Now we are planning to have our convergence on the 30th and 31st, Vegan World Convergence. We are planning to have like groups of 3 on each topic. So 3 people come together to talk about, say, this great big northern, this new project we're building, or the food healers. I'll have 3 people coming together to talk about from their perspectives, and then get some cross-pollination going. Right. So yeah, we'll see. I think
Beautiful.
I would love to have Ananda come to that and speak with Jim Hicks and Dr. Gross.
Wonderful. No, because I'm telling you, she's the bomb for intentional communities. Her presentation is well worth watching. I'll get it uploaded probably later today, this evening. Okay. Well worth watching. It was just fascinating.
Yeah, Ananda's pretty cool. I've been working with her for about 4 or 5 weeks now, getting her to come to the press conference and get her. And she presented her little presentation the other day just to a few of us, just to kind of see where she was at. She was feeling a little unsure. She hadn't presented in a while. So, but she does consult to intentional communities, and all she asks for is that she has room and board.
Mm-hmm.
So she's lived in quite a few. I think she had, about 8 of them in that presentation, something like that. Maybe not.
Yeah, 8 or 10. Yeah.
Yeah. She's lived in a lot more than that. And she freely admitted, she said, sometimes the problem in an intentional community with everything being, copacetic was, she was the problem sometimes. she said, and I'll say I've been asked to leave more than one intentional community. So she said, so I know a lot about it.
Yeah. Yeah, you never learn until you make mistakes, right? That's when you learn. You learn from mistakes.
Exactly. And she's also going to organize some workshops to do within, the conversation around personality types around change. And she mentioned the book, Who Moved My Cheese, and kind of discovering. Have you read that book, Silas?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
We gave it to all our people when we closed our center. Who moved my cheese? This was in 2003 when I quit Intel.
Yeah.
I quit Intel, and then they decided to close the whole center when I quit Intel. So I was running
Wow.
the center. And so
Wow. Gotcha.
they gave everybody this book, Who Moved My Cheese, so that they can figure out where to go to find their next cheese.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so she's going to lead some workshops for us around, and it's finding your change personality. You know, are you kind of, hey, we got to take action? Are you kind of more reflective, or keep people together, or run and hide? Anyway, these different kind of personality expressions amidst change. And one thing that's very exciting about that for me is that, you know, as we identified, and people can self-identify and kind of find themselves within these different personality types for change, then we can organize ourselves and leverage, you know, the innovators when we need innovation, and the action types when we need urgent action, and, you know, the people types when we need getting people together and taking care of people and all that, and really do it as a whole holistic ecosystem. So I'm super excited to work with Ananda and this whole community and getting this planetary conference together. She said there are so many, you know, future thinker groups, communities, et cetera. It's kind of endless. I mean, I had that feeling myself. That was the original inspiration for the Collective Intelligence Block Party. I was like, hey, so many different groups are doing collective intelligence. Can't we just like get together and, like, I don't know, have a party and like get to know each other and see what everybody's doing? And so let's see, we got Ethan entering the room here. Let me just pause real quick and welcome Ethan. So continuing to record, welcome Jimena and Ethan. So for the conference that we're talking about, you know, so we've got these intentional communities and all that, and I really like your idea, Silas, of Veganauts. And I was literally in bed this morning, I was thinking of a model for this conference, which is literally the first meeting is going to be in 2 hours for creating a new world. And the model I was thinking of is Spaceship Earth. Spaceship Earth. And who best to run the spaceship than Veganauts, right? Veganauts are the only qualified astronauts to pilot and navigate and maintain and organize Spaceship Earth. I mean, who else are you going to turn it over to? A bunch of Klingons? A bunch of violent Klingons? Oh, humans, oh, good meat. Let's chop them up and eat them. Nah, give me a break. And in fact, speaking of a moneyless society, Adam Soul, who's been on this program going back months, it's been several months since he's been on here, but he's had his whole World Without Money project and mission and vision. And he has a small community working on that. He told us a story, probably going back over a year ago. He said, can you imagine, you know, Star Trek, Starship Enterprise? And so you have all these people working in harmony on the spaceship, and they're going and exploring new worlds and all that good stuff. And then all of a sudden, somebody comes along and introduces capitalism to Starship Enterprise. And then what are you going to have? Well, suddenly people are going to say, hey, wait a second, this mechanical system that's providing this vital function on the spaceship, let me dismantle it and take it apart and sell its parts for money, right? And so the people on Star Trek, the people on the spaceship, start dismantling the ship in order to sell its vital parts for money. And so the ship is gradually falling apart as people pick it apart. I think that's a really good metaphor for exactly what's happening here on Spaceship Earth. We were given this whole beautiful planet that's just flying through space, self-sustaining, regenerative, like, you know, just a beautiful biological system of systems, of ecosystems and hydrologic cycle and carbon cycle and all this great stuff. And we humans come along and introduce this idea of money and hoarding, and that everything has a price, everything has a value. And why the heck would you want to leave those 1,000 acres of rainforest there? Break out the chainsaws and turn that mahogany and turn those living mahogany trees into money, right? Board feet of lumber, which we can sell for dollars, big money. So anyway, I'm really excited about this concept of spaceship Earth, and I think that would, because, you know, yeah, we can talk about building a little sustainable colony within a larger spaceship that's falling apart, and say, well, let's just take this one, you know, room or laboratory or compartment of the spaceship and make it work, and then maybe that'll spread to the rest of the spaceship. I actually believe the situation is so urgent that we need to set our sights much, much higher right now on transforming the entire spaceship holistically, and that we can do it essentially as a single holistic pass, as long as it's well designed. Getting back to the engineering part of it, right? How do we redesign life on Earth? Because what I don't want is for us to keep doing these tiny little projects here, there, and everywhere, like kids building sandcastles on the beach, and then the quickly rising tide overwhelms us because we've got very nasty rising tides of exponential planetary overheating, the rise of fascism and totalitarianism, meat and dairy, et cetera, just capitalism, money, et cetera. So anyway, I've made my rant. I'm going to go on mute and would love to hear everyone's thoughts.
Yeah. You know, I'm one of those that you talk about that decides to just suddenly switch and go somewhere else. That's what happened to me at Intel. I just said, I quit. I'm done with you. I'm not going to tolerate all these lies, and I moved on, right? So it's the same thing with Bell Labs. That's how I quit Bell Labs too. And so I think it is one of those things where you say, this system, that's it. I mean, the best you can do in this system is to get people healthy, you know, with the resources it has. Get people healthy so that they can become veganauts and get away from here and start a new colony on Earth that actually works, right? That is based on the truth. Don't tell me that, you know, protein is the most important nutrient and you need 35% of your calories from protein. All these outright lies just so that you can make money off my body. So it has to be based on the truth, and has to be based on open source. Everything has to be open source. No one's making money off of your your data, you know. So it really is a complete redesign of a system, a completely different system you have to build there. And you have to go start it off in a place where it will be hosted by the existing system. I don't know, is that America? I don't know. You know, certainly not in the land of Trump. It won't be hosted, right? So we'll have to figure out where it has to be hosted first. So then people can say, hey, I want to be a veganaut. I want to go join that colony. And of course, the first thing you need to do when you want to join that colony is to get trained to be a veganaut, right? And then you come in. And then it may involve looking at personalities to see who is willing to take that step first. Eventually, of course, that will be the normal way to live, right? We're no longer lying to ourselves about everything. We're lying to ourselves about so many things. Except engineering, we cannot lie. Engineering, if I lie, I'll never build anything that works. So I had to be honest with myself when I was building this. You know, I had to go and admit that I made a mistake when I made a mistake. Otherwise, I would never fix this correctly, right? So when my chip wasn't working, it was no longer about, you know, pretending it's working. No, it isn't working, whether you like it or not. It doesn't link. And you have to be brutally honest with yourself when something goes wrong. But that is part of the learning process, you know, how to live like a veganaut.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. I just realized why another reason I've kind of been drawn in here to work with you all is we have a commonality I just saw that I didn't see before. I remember driving home from my job when I was doing underground utility damage prevention, and I was kind of bucking the system because I wouldn't do the lies they wanted us to do. They wanted us to say we went to a location if it was a certain kind of, locate, like if it was out in the country and it was a private person, just say no conflict and put that N/C in your notes. Well, we'll know you didn't really go there. And when the second request comes, we'll take it more seriously. And I'm like, what? That's crazy. I'm not doing that. Well, go ahead, my supervisor. You can use my login every time you have to do that. I'm like, oh yeah. And when somebody gets killed because I didn't do a locate properly, then you're going to jump up and say, you're not going to say that, yeah, you let me use your login. You're going to say, oh, look, he stole my login too. I'm like, this is bullshit. I don't see myself doing this. So they transferred me to an area where I had like an hour and a half to a 2-hour drive before my first job and after my first job each day as a punishment. And it was an area where I wouldn't have to do those type of locates. So they thought it was a win-win. But when he nagged on me for an hour and a half on my ride home on my time, on the phone, by the time I got home, I just looked at my wife and I said, you know what? I'm not going to work Monday, and I'm going to clean up my truck today, organize it, do an inventory, and leave it for them. And I'll leave the key here if they come when I'm not home. It's like, because I'm not doing this, So
Right.
now I see another connection we have. When it's wrong at some point, you just have to say no.
Yes. I mean, we learn it the hard way, right? In engineering, right? If you say, I didn't make the mistake, someone else made the mistake, you'll never fix it. Yeah, it's really about ownership and responsibilities and taking responsibility for our role on this planet, right? So I'm really, I'm so glad that this whole thing with the ISKCON temple is coming through. It's just forming itself on its own. I know, Jimena, do you know that what has been happening?
What's been happening, Dr. Salish? Tell me.
The ISKCON temple in Phoenix is going to cook for the Navajo Nation elders.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So basically we're taking trays of food, prepared food once a week, every Thursday.
Wow.
And dropping it out. And the first tray is going to go out on Thursday, the January 21st. And it'll be all universal meals approved by the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine.
Oh, that's the best news ever. Thank you. Thank you for your effort. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we want the best meals to go to the Navajo elders, to start with.
Awesome. Beautiful. Like we owe them that somehow. Yeah, we are paying back all that they have done to keep this earth preserved and helping us with their shamanism and spirituality. Yeah. Thank you very much. Well, I may need to go because I have to collaborate in an event. I want to come today at 7 East, no, 7 PDT.
Pacific. Yeah.
Right.
And thank you very much. I came to say hello and to be here for this news, I guess.
Absolutely. All right, Jimena.
Thank you, Dr. Salish. Thank you, Jaime and Marco. Have a good morning.
Thank you. All right, we'll see you soon, Jimena.
Bye.
And what time is the kickoff again for the MLK? Is that
in 40 minutes?
In 40 minutes. Okay, great. So
I have to get going because I have to feed my birds. I have a bunch of things to do. So
Okay.
I haven't done that. I remember I haven't fed my birds yet.
Very good. All right, Silas. Well, great stuff. And are you are you planning on being here this evening for Food Healers?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Okay, perfect.
I'll
Awesome.
come back.
We'll have lots of good updates then.
All right, good. Talk to you then.
All right, very good, Silas. We'll see you soon. Thanks so much.
Wow, lots of stuff going on.
Yeah. So, all right, at the top of the hour, we'll have the MLK kickoff. Maybe we do a field trip to that. I could leave one computer here. And
Yeah, I was gonna see. I'm pretty sure they're gonna be streaming that on Facebook, so we could even screen share if that's the case, if we wanted to.
yeah, I actually want to be there
Right.
because we're, here on the conversation, of course, we're a part of it. We're the conversation room for the event.
Yeah, that could use a, in all their preparations for these things, they could make it a little more clear that that's what we do here, because there's very, very little I found in the last couple events that identifies what we do here. It's like just the link appears with no explanation.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure my feeling is, oh, it's just us. My feeling is that's by design to include us, but not really include us.
Yeah, I mean, here, let me pause.